Good morning and welcome to ITS Connect. My name is Jennifer Loudiana. I'm the Education and Training Specialist for Information Technology Services on campus. And today we're going to talk about some advanced features of Adobe Connect. The last Connect session was about the basics of hosting and setting up an Adobe Connect meeting. That is available for viewing if you did miss it on help.case.edu. On the left side, under the training menu, there is a section called Videos, and you'll be able to see all of our past ITS Connect sessions as well. And this one will be posted there after this session. In part one, I talked about how to host a meeting. On this session, I wanted to talk about a few things that are helpful to know when you are hosting a meeting. I'm going to talk about what kinds of pods you can add to your meeting, using the presenter area, which is helpful if you have a lot of pods you want to move in and out. You can have an area where your participants won't see those. How to reuse your layout. So if you want to have a layout for a meeting and keep it, you can use that as your permanent layout if it's different from any of the standard layouts. You can also save your own meeting templates, which we'll talk about as well. Lastly, we'll talk about how you can save your recorded meetings and then you can download them and keep them archived. So you'll have them out in your Connect account, but you can also download them onto your computer as well. So for best viewing of today's meeting, on the top right-hand side, you're going to see a button that says Full Screen. If you click that button, it will make the middle share pod bigger, so you will be able to see the session without having the items on the side, and it'll be a little bit larger. If you want to minimize that again later, if you want to type in the chat box, for example, or something, you can click on Full Screen again, and it'll go back to the normal size. So today I'm going to be sharing my Connect session and showing you some things in the meeting room, and then for the second half I'll be showing you how to manage meetings and a couple of tips there as well. So let's talk about pods. All of the items in the middle here are pods. So this big center section here that I'm sharing with you is the share pod, and that's what it's called. And that's where you can share applications, you can share your desktop, you can share files, PowerPoints, things like that using the drop down here. So if I click on the drop down just so that you can see, instead of stop sharing, it'll be share, and then you can choose what you want to share, your screen, your desktop, if there's a whiteboard. You can also upload items, which would be under the recently shared, so that you can go to those. If you're switching back and forth, they will be stored there for you. If we go to the pods on the top, you'll be able to see all of the pods you can use. So each of the little squares that you see on the screen is called a pod. So on the top left, you're probably seeing me. Then you'll see a list of attendees, and then at the very bottom is the chat, which I can see that, and everyone who's viewing today can see that if you type things into the chat. And then again, the center area is the share. So if you go to the share, you'll see it has add a new share. So if you want to have two share areas, you can do that. It'll also list, it looks like I have two shares open at some point. One is probably hidden. The other one is checked, which means that's the one that I'm using. The second pod is called the Notes pod, and you can have as many of those as you want. If you want to have one that has notes for you, the presenter, you can set that up and have it on the presenter only, which I'll show you how to do that. You can also have notes, maybe you want to categorize them, and I'll talk about a little bit later on how you can find all the pods and you can rename them if you want to organize. So you might have a notes pod that has some information about how to log in and how to get into the system. So it's not in the chat pod, because the chat pod will scroll as users are typing in, so you'll need to scroll up and down. So if you had information about your session when people log in, the dial-in number or anything like that, you can use a notes pod for that. The attendees pod shows you who's in your meeting. Today you'll see the participants list. Also as the host, I can see who I have listed as a host, who I have listed as a presenter, and then who are the participants in that pod. The camera and voice pod, you can activate that. That is what we have activated on the top left today. And that will allow you to use your webcam on your computer. You can set that up. It'll allow you to monitor the sound and your voice as well. The video telephony is used for video conferencing. If you want to use that pod, I suggest looking at the documentation and manuals that are available on how to use that pod. We don't use it very much at all. The chat pod is used a lot. This is where you can have people chat back and forth and see the information. So I have one up today on the bottom left, you'll see. So I typed some things to you today. It will list who's typing it, the participant's name, and then the information that they're typing. The files pod is used where you can add files that you want to share. So if you want to put files in there and have someone download a PDF that you're talking about, or if you want to post the PowerPoint that you had in your demonstration at the end, you can put those in the file pod, and then those are shared, and the participants can actually go and download that information and have those files as well. The web links pod allows you to put in links to allow your participants to open those links in a new window. It's kind of a nice feature. It'll allow you to set up, if I wanted you to go to a website, for example, help.case, I can use the web links pod, and you would be able to automatically see that in a new window. The polling pod is a really nice feature. If you are using it for a class, it's a good alternative to using clickers online. And what you can do with that is you can set up a poll. You can give multiple choice, so you can ask a question. Have you ever attended an ITS Connect session before? Yes or no. And the participants will see the question and the little circles to answer, and then they can answer that. And on your side, what you'll see is a graph that will show the percentage. So you can actually talk to those polls as you're going through your presentation. That's a very nice feature, and I can actually show you one. It looks like I have a few up here. So here's what one looks like to get it started. You can actually choose your multiple choice. If there's answers, you would enter your question. And then you want to say yes, no, and then you can hit open, and that's when it will open. So for this example, if I wanted to hold on to that until a certain point in my presentation, that's when I could use that presenter area that I'll demonstrate shortly. Now if I open the poll, then the users would be able to see it. And then the last pod is called Q&A. And this is helpful if you have students asking questions, and the instructor can then answer the questions, and it will keep them as a question-answer pair. It's a little more efficient than the chat pod, because the chat pod, someone can chat in between while the instructor's answering, whereas the question-answer, it will keep them paired together. So it's a kind of a nice feature to have if you are answering questions for a class. The last option, move and resize pods, I have that one checked. So notice if there's a check mark on the left-hand side, that means those are activated and being used. I have that on. That means you can actually move your pods around. So if I want to move this poll pod around, I can do that. If I go down here and I turn it off, I will not be able to move it. So if you do have multiple presenters or things where you want to make sure it all stays in the same layout and format, then you want to make sure that you change it, turn this off, move and resize pods. So I just turned it back on, and I'm going to be able to move my pod around. The last item, I talked about renaming when I was talking about the notes pod. So if I click on Manage Pods, I can see all of the pods that I have open. And some of these you'll think, well, there aren't that many open. These are all the pods. On the top right of each pod, there is a little menu. I'm actually going to put done here because I'll show you this. That you can drop down. So if you hide a pod, it's still there, but you'll need to actually remove it. So if you want to, at the end of a presentation, you opened up a couple of notes pods, a web link, you had a couple of polls, and you want to clean up your template and change that, you can use the Manage Pods option. And what I can do is I can go in here, and you saw that I had a couple of polls. So if I click on one, I can just delete that poll, and eventually I'll delete all 4 of these. So I should only have one poll. If you want to rename the item, So if I wanted to rename one of these notes, I can click rename and I can call it something else, and then click done, and it'll rename that pod for me. Now I deleted a couple of polls, so if I go to the poll pod, you'll see I only have one poll listed now because I've deleted all the extra ones. So underneath this line are those that you have open. So I have a couple of notes pods. Here's the pod that I actually renamed from notes to my information. So you can see that there. So it's a good way to organize your pods if you're going to use this a lot. You might want to create notes pods that have specific titles. You may want to use them for different categories depending on your topic so that you have a good way to find them pretty quickly. So we're back to the save area. And I mentioned the presenter only. So I'm going to show you that next. So if you go to Meeting on the top left menu, you're going to go down to Enable Presenter Only Area. And this will open a new section, you'll see when I click on it, to the right of your share area. And that is where you can drag and drop things. If I want to open my pod that had presenter notes that I had here, it's going to show up in the presenter only area, and I can see these notes I had from another session here in that area, so that while you're talking, the participants normally will not see this. In your instance today, you're viewing my whole desktop, so you can see this. But if you're presenting a meeting, then your participants will not see the presenter only area. And if I need that space for myself, I can go back to Meeting and I can click Disable Presenter Only Area, and that will bring it back to this full screen that you see now. Another option is the Switch to Prepare mode. That lets you make changes more on the fly during the presentation. So if I click on that, I can move some things around and the participants won't be able to see that until I turn it back off, and then the pods will change. If I make changes such as naming of pods, that will show up as I do it. But it's a way to allow you to prepare maybe for, if you have multiple presenters, you want the next person to load their information and get it ready to go. You can do that with the prepare mode. So I've walked through quite a few things on the pods and meetings and how to do that. Now, if you have a meeting and you want to keep it always the same, so in this example, I want to have the layout we have now. So I want my webcam on the top left. I want a list of attendees. I want to have the chat. And then in the center, I want to have my share. And then I want the presenter notes. And I want to always have that same layout. So when I come to do another layout for a similar thing, I can click on that layout and go there. And I don't want to use, there's three default layouts. So if I go to layouts, you'll see I have the three that come with Connect that are already set up. And then there's one here called ITS Connect. So that's a layout that I've created. So what you can do is just create a new layout, and it's going to ask you if you want a blank layout, which means it's going to come up empty and you're going to lay out all your pods, or if you want to duplicate an existing layout. So maybe you want to duplicate the sharing layout, but you want to change a few of the pods or add something else. You can do that by duplicating the existing layout. You would want to name your layout, which you can just type that in here and then click OK, and then you can go ahead and start doing that and it will automatically save for you. And as I said, once you do that under layouts, you'll see it show up underneath. So you might have 3 or 4. Maybe you have different host different meetings or classes that you want to create different layouts for. So that goes over the internal side, some more features that you can use when you're hosting a meeting. As I always say, we do have an Adobe Connect manual. We have some quick reference guides. So if there's anything you have questions on or you need to refresh from today, you can go to help.case.edu under Training and Adobe Connect, and you'll see a plethora of information there that you can use in the future. So the next topic that I was talking about is you want to create a meeting, but you want it to be a template. So let's say you're doing a class and you want to have a template for this particular class, and maybe your other class has a different template and you want to have two of them, but you want to just keep reusing it and use it as a template. You can set that up. I'm going to actually go to my meeting area here. So when you've logged in, you're going to see your main home screen, and we're going to go to Meetings, which you would click on the top bar. And you'll see there is a My Templates folder automatically. And when we created our meeting, if you remember, in the drop-down there was actually a shared template. So there were a couple of default templates, and then underneath that, some other people had created shared templates, so other people could use those templates if they wanted to. So in order to create a template, you would choose which meeting. So I'm going to choose Jennifer's meeting room. I use that often if I'm doing one-on-one training and sessions like that, and I may want it to be always the same and just use that for my meeting template. You would click the checkbox next to it. You would click on the Move button at the top, and then you have the My Templates folder, and that's where I want it to go. So I'm going to click on My Templates, and then I'm going to click Move, and then OK. So you'll notice it's not in this main area anymore. It is actually in My Templates. So if I click on that folder, there's the meeting room that I wanted to have as a template. If I click on that and want to move it back, I can click on Move. And I don't want it to be in My Templates. I want to go back to my other folder, and I want to click Move. OK. And now if I go to my meetings list, I'm going to see that it's back. So that's really easy. If you have a template, you want to change it. So you want to switch them out, or if you want to delete it, you can actually use all of this along here to organize all your meetings. So if you want to create a new meeting, you can create a folder. So if you want to have a folder for classroom meetings, a folder for committee meetings, you can do that. You can also delete them. Just make sure that you click on the one you want to delete and that you do want to delete it. And again, we talked about moving up one level. If you have different sets of folders, that will allow you to navigate through there. The other option I talked about was shared templates. Now, one thing about shared templates to be aware of is if they are shared, that means everyone can see them. It will be a public template. So be aware of that, that other people may be using it as a template and that everyone will be able to see it when they create a new meeting. To do that, if you wanted to create a shared template, so for example, maybe you want to create one for your department to always use the same template. You could do that. I'm actually going to use the same one that I had. I'm going to check on it. I'm going to click Move. And along the top, you'll see different folders. I want to click on Shared Templates. And if I click Move, it's actually going to warn me that it's not a private meeting anymore. Anyone who has it can use it. And then if I click OK, it's going to show up in the drop-down for Create a New Meeting. So I can show you that. So in the new meeting, now you can see the shared templates. Here's my meeting room that I just put in the shared templates folder. So that's where those would show up if you have used the shared templates folder. Now, if I want to move it out of there, I can do the same thing. I can go to Move. Let me create another one. I want to go back to Shared Templates. And then I can remove it from there. So it's not in My Templates, and it's in the shared area there. I can go to Shared Meetings, Shared Templates, and here's my template, and I want to actually move it out of the Shared Templates area. And I want to move it back into My Meetings, and I'll click on Move and hit OK. And if I go back to My Meetings, I'm going to see my room here, and if I look in the Shared Meetings and Shared Templates, you will see it's not listed there anymore, which means it's not going to be in the drop-down. So that's how you would use the templates feature if you wanted to use that as well. The last item I'm going to talk about is we've created all of these meetings, we've hosted meetings, we've recorded meetings, which is the important part. If you want to keep any of the meetings that you hold, you do need to remember to record them. And I'm going to show you where you can find those recordings, as well as you can do a little bit of editing and where you can do that, and then how you can save them. So if you want to archive them on your computer, download them and share them with others that way, link them on a website, you can actually download that file. So if I go back to my meetings list, I'm going to choose one that has a recording. And up on the top menu here for the meeting, I'm going to click on recordings. Oh, doesn't have a recording. I will choose another one. This one has 3 recordings. So on the left, you'll see the recording. So if you click on it, you can go in and edit it. Also, the edit button here is what you would use to edit. Now, just to keep in mind, this is not a super robust editor. It allows you to do things like cut out chunks at the beginning and the end. For example, if you were testing and you wanted to eliminate that. If at the end you had a lot of people talking or flipping around on the share, you can clip that out at the end. But it has 2 little arrows and you can clip all of that information out. One nice thing is it does keep your original copy, and it has another copy of your edited. So you can always go back to the original if you wanted to look at it. So if I wanted to archive any of these, I could click on Make Offline, and it's going to open a new window for me. There it goes. And it's going to start playing the recording. Well, if you get this message, make sure that you install the add-in. And so I'll just walk through this. Once it opens up, it will start playing automatically. If it doesn't, on the bottom left, there will be either a recording bar or there will be a little arrow that you can click to make the recording bar show up. And what you can do is you have to play it through to get the whole thing. Now, if you only wanted to have the recording of, let's say, the first half of a hour-long presentation, what you could do is watch the recording until it gets to the point where you want to stop. You can click stop and save, and it will only save that section of the recording for you. If you want the whole recording, you do need to have it go through the entire recording, and then at the end it will save it for you. When you open it up, it will ask you to name the file, and it will ask you where you want to save it as well. And then once you've saved it, you will have a .flv file that you can use, and if you click on it, it will open up in Flash. You do need to have the Flash player, and it will play for you anywhere. So you can put it in a directory for your website and link to it. You can send it to people to play if they have Flash player as well. Let me see if that came back. No, it did not. We do have instructions on that, but that's just the overview for today on how to download your recordings, which is a good thing to do every so often. You might want to just make sure that you have a copy. They will always be out there with your meetings, but if you get a lot of them, you may want to archive them as you go a little bit each at a time. So that's all we had for today. Thank you for attending. Again, you can find all of these recordings at help.case.edu on the left-hand side under training and then videos. So this will be up there probably within the next week or so. Also, all of the ITS Connect sessions are held live each month, and they are located, the information will be in the daily through your email box or on help.case.edu in the hot topics area. We will have when the next date will be and what the next topic will be. Thank you for attending. Have a good day. Are there any questions? Maria asked, what does the sample template look like? Let me go ahead and open that up. sample template. It's not under mine, it'd be under shared. Shared templates. You know, I'm not sure where the sample template is. If you could let me know on what screen you saw that, I can open that up for you and show you what that looks like. Ina, these will be actually posted probably within the next week to 10 days or so on the video area, so you can re-watch the whole thing if you'd like, or you can skip to where you missed on the recording today. Maria, I actually don't have any templates. I just created the one that we saw today. The templates are actually very similar to this. So if you log in, anyone has access to Adobe Connect. So you can go to connect.case.edu and log in and go to your My Meetings and create a new meeting, and you'll be able to play with those templates. The default is sharing, which is what I'm using today. There is a template for discussions that has a few other pods in it. There is also a template for collaboration, which I know does include the whiteboard. So you can go ahead and go in there and play with any of those that you want to look at. Ina, I'm not sure what you missed, but I was talking about the 3 types of templates. There is a sharing template, which we use today, discussion, and collaboration. And again, you can go to connect.case.edu. When you log in, you will have a meetings tab, and you can play with it yourself and create your own meetings and move the pods around and everything and get familiar with the 3 kinds of templates, and then decide if you want to create your own template or if you want to create your own layouts. Are there any other questions? We have a few minutes before 12 here. And then I always advertise help.case.edu is a really good resource for all of the services ITS offers. The training area is very robust. We have a lot of guides on many of our large services, Adobe Connect being one of them. Cheryl, I did not see your question. If you were asking about the webcam, you can use one that is in your computer. A lot of them come with them, or you can use an external one as well. And Ina, again, you can watch it when it's uploaded on help.case.edu. This session will be there. And again, if you go to training on the left-hand side of help.case.edu and go to the very bottom of that menu, there is an item called videos. And if you click that, you will see all of the videos for Adobe Connect that we have done for the ITS Connect sessions. And many of those are on Google products. If you want to see an overview of email, calendar, documents, sites, we have one on Google Translate. We also have done overviews, for example, on how to use lynda.com, how to use help.case.edu, and then we have done, the last one we did was on Adobe Connect, and then this second part of Adobe Connect. Cheryl, sometimes it might be your connection coming across. I'm not sure. You can click on, if you've clicked on full screen, you can click it again and it will minimize that. I see we have another. You're welcome, Cheryl. So we're about out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and go. But thanks a lot for attending, and I hope that you find this helpful and that you will be able to use our materials and host your own meetings. Thank you very much.